Hello folks, I am back doing another video. I already worked. Do you remember these? I was working on the outlines and now I finished one side of the hair tie. This is what it looks like when it's completely filled in. And today I'll be showing you how to fill in on your beadwork, and I'll just be doing the 2-needle flat stitch so you can see more of that technique on how to fill in. I'm going to be beading off of the hanks, which I find is kind of a lot easier. So you see these little strands right here I have off to the side. I can just take the beads directly off the hanks instead of having to worry about loose beads. But I also have a little plastic lid that has loose beads in it that I can take from. So here we go. Now I've already waxed a doubled thread right here. You can see I doubled up my D size thread and I waxed it. And if you're curious about waxing, here we go. Here is my old piece of beeswax that I used, and I'll just take my thread and I'm just gonna run it through the beeswax. Get it nice and waxy so your thread isn't tangling up and all kinds of mishaps when you have tangled threads. No fun. So this is my lead thread. I'll call it a lead thread. The thread is doubled up just to keep the beads more secure. So here's the lead thread. And I have my tacking down thread, which I don't double up. I leave it open on one side. So it's just single. This needs to be waxed too. So we'll wax this really quick. So as you can see, hopefully, that this end, see this little tail end right here? It's just loose. So that when I tack it down, there'll only be one thread tacking it down, which helps to not move the beads, because really when you're tacking down, if you double up your thread, what happens is it makes the big old gaps in the beads, and you don't want that. Nobody wants that. So let's get started. I like to, when I'm starting out and there's a curve, see how that's curved right there? And it makes it really difficult when your beads, you know, to cover it up. So what we'll do is I'm just going to take one bead, a thin bead, because there are thin beads, there are fat beads, there's all kinds of beads, just like people, all kinds of beads. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a thin bead, and I'm going to use that bead and I'm going to turn it sideways right here in the corner. See that little corner? We want to fill that in, and we're going to fill it in before we make a line, and that way it'll just kind of plug that little corner up, and then we don't have to look at big old white glaring. See, I filled that corner up pretty good. Now let's start with, this is my lead thread right here. My lead thread, which is doubled waxed thread. Sometimes when your thread is newly waxed, you'll get little bits of beeswax everywhere. That's okay. They'll go away as you're working. So I'm going to add 2 looks like I need 2 of these darker blues, and then we're gonna proceed on to these beautiful, beautiful, I'm obsessed with these blue beads. Oh my god. So I'm beading off of the hank right now. I like doing this because it just seems like when you're doing solid colors, it just kind of is a little bit faster than trying to pick up one bead at a time. So you see how I just threw them beads on there like that? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure a little bit. So it looks like I need probably 2 more beads. And, you know, kind of pre-measuring your stuff and making sure it fits, you know, is a little bit more time consuming, but I see like it's a little bit too big, so I'll take one off. All right. Throw that in here in that little plastic tin. And you could do this either 2 ways. You can keep this lead thread out like this. Wrap the thread whichever way is comfortable on your fingers. I kind of have a tendency to just kind of wrap it like this. See how that thread is wrapped around my fingers? And just securing that thread so it stays nice and tight. And then using your thumb to keep them in place while you tack down with your tacking thread. There we go. Here's my open tacking thread right here. And I'm holding this lead thread down. I've got it curled around my fingers. And just, this is the way I feel comfortable and I've been doing for 20 years. I just wrap it really quick. It's almost like second nature. Use my thumb to tack, to hold down. And I have my tacking thread right here. It's not doubled up. It's just got one open end over here, the other side. And I'm going to tack down starting the first 2 beads. There we go. And if you can see, I'm using this finger as a guide. I put it right up where I know I need, and that took me a long time to be comfortable with doing. It's just something that you become comfortable doing and it becomes habit. Yeah, you'll poke yourself a couple times and that'll teach you where to put your finger. So as I'm just keeping these closer together, I like to use my finger and my thumb right here, my index finger and my thumb as my guides. And as I came out, see, ta-da, look how close that needle is. But that's okay because, and going from the outside in can be difficult because you come up with problems like this where you're struggling to keep the beads flat against each other, because that's your ultimate goal. You want the beads to be flat and everything nice and close together. And so sometimes you'll have to struggle with, you know, keeping the tension good. And keeping the beads flat. And if you are coming up with that problem, your beads are not wanting to stay, this is another solution. You just measure what you need. Measure the beads that you're gonna put down. Take your lead thread and you're just gonna tack it down because this will also keep the beads in place. See? I just took the lead thread and I'm going to tack it in here, and it's going to lay flat, and you can still kind of wrap it around your fingers down here, and this kind of helps it stay flatter while you tack. So this is the 2-needle flat stitch method, and I'm just showing you all how I'm finishing off these hair ties. So now I'm just tacking down some more, and my goal is to keep these beads nice and close together and show off those pretty facets right there. I turn most of my beads, if they have the facets or this little flat sides on them that make it all nice and shiny, I'll turn those because I think that they are absolutely beautiful, and that's what makes it the most shiniest, and that's what we all want from beads: shine. I mean, that's why I love beading, because the color that you get, you can't get in anything else. The colors, the shine, just how beautiful they are all put together. This hair tie is from my second daughter. There we go. See, look. Ta-da! Now we're tacking down the last one. See, now if you use a doubled up tacking stitch, if you double up your thread, what happens is your beads will just kind of keep moving, because every time you make a tack in between each, every 2 beads, don't try to go more than 3. If you try to tack more than 3, you're going to get bubbles in your beads, and that nobody likes that. So there we go. Now we're going to take our lead thread and we're going to go over here just on the other side of this bead. Come up through here, and how many beads is it? 6, 7. So we're going to come over here and we're going to bead off of the hank. Here's my hank over here. See, there's my hank. We're going to count 6, 7. Use my little finger to keep it still while I just run my needle through these and then pull it off of the hank string. And then we're going to come over here and put these on here, and it looks like that is not enough beads. So I'm going to go over here and search for a bigger bead to fill that in, that space in, because we don't want to leave gaps. Gaps are not good either. So I went and found a second bead, and let's measure it again. Ta-da! Okay. So that's not working either. So we're gonna put away those beads, and we're going to find 4 thinner beads, because that looks like what will fit. And